A show of military strength and might as U.S. President Joe Biden welcomes South Korean President Yoon Suk-yeol at the White House. The state visit is designed to reaffirm decades of military cooperation between the two nations and project deterrence in the face of stepped-up missile testing by North Korea that has in recent years shown little interest in talks of denuclearization. The two leaders signed a new plan known as the Washington Declaration to expand nuclear deterrence in the region through joint exercises, even though South Korea is officially a non-proliferation country. For the first time in 40 years, U.S. nuclear submarines will be positioned in South Korea as part of the declaration. For its part, Seoul has committed to not developing its own nuclear weapon, instead remaining under the nuclear umbrella of the United States.
One, two, 5 rockets fired into the sea. Target: a decommissioned Philippine Navy vessel, 22 kilometers from where a U.S. HIMARS launched the missiles. Air and naval assets reinforced ground artillery. The ship sinking exercise was a first for the annual war games known as Balikatan, which means shoulder to shoulder. And the Philippine president himself, Ferdinand Marcos Jr., was there to witness history. The mock enemy ship was anchored in waters close to the South China Sea, where Manila and Beijing have competing claims. But officials say the sinking exercise wasn't directed at China.
Tonight, the White House saying the man behind the horrific attack that killed 13 US service members and more than 150 Afghans in Kabul is dead. A senior administration official telling ABC News the ISIS-K terrorist who masterminded the suicide bombing at Kabul airport in August 2021 was killed in recent weeks in a Taliban operation. You can see in this video, released by the Pentagon, the lone figure dressed in black, identified as the bomber, carrying 20 pounds of explosives packed with ball bearings. And the catastrophic aftermath: 13 American service members and more than 150 Afghan civilians dead.
Three Russian aircraft were intercepted in the international airspace over the Baltic Sea on Wednesday. This is according to the German Air Force, and they were intercepted since they were flying without transponder signals in international waters, that is. The German Air Force took to Twitter and said that Germany and Britain sent Eurofighter jets to identify the three aircraft. They were two Russian Sukhoi 27 fighter and Ilyushin 20 aircraft. Russian military aircraft regularly fly from the mainland to Kaliningrad, which is sandwiched between Poland and Lithuania. This makes such encounters pretty routine in the region.
Ukraine's President Zelensky says he had an hour-long telephone call with China's President Xi today, the first between the two since Russia's invasion. China says it maintains a neutral stance in the conflict, and President Xi has so far refused to condemn Moscow's invasion. In February, Beijing offered a 12-point paper calling for a political settlement to this crisis.
The federal government has announced the next phase of its plan to get rid of assault-style firearms. It'll be in the form of a buyback program. Public Safety Minister Marco Mendicino spoke about it earlier today, and he says the government has entered into an agreement with the Canadian Sporting Arms and Ammunition Association, which represents hunters and sport shooters. Mendicino says there are thousands of assault-style firearms in Canada.
In the middle of the Pacific Ocean, days from any port, a sobering voice comes over the speakers.
Again, ladies and gentlemen, all guests and crew, we kindly ask to return to your stateroom and account for everybody that should be in your room.
With the ship slowing down, an alert goes out to all on board.
Should you be missing anybody, please call 911. Thank you.
Almost immediately, life rings are thrown into the ocean and a search craft deployed after credible reports a Brisbane man was seen going over the railings. The US Coast Guard in Hawaii informed and asked to help. An urgent marine broadcast issued to all vessels in the area to look out for him as the Coast Guard made its way to the search site. Quantum of the Seas left Brisbane for a 2-week cruise to Hawaii, making 2 stops in French Polynesia. Departing there, it had been at sea for more than 3 days when the emergency unfolded.